Hello everyone! So I'm getting ready for my favorite day of the year, St. Nicholas Day. And the night before, my family always made these special cookies. So I was going to show you the recipe and kind of walk you through a pan of them. So I'm going to try to turn the camera around here and we'll get you going on your first sheet of St. Nicholas cookies. Okay, so here's the sheet, and my mom read this book years ago called To Dance with God, and I never read the book. And anyway, but the one thing that she liked about it, at least, was that it had this awesome recipe for St. Nicholas cookies that I'll share with you, but it also showed like the shape, to make a shape like, so I'm sorry, my webcam is at, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so we took like cracker boxes and just trace this and cut it out of the side of a box. So that's as thick as you need it. Then you actually have two pieces. Let me see where my other one is. Here's the other one. So then you have the one you cut out, so you can have two pattern pieces and two people can be working on cookies. I kind of like using this one better for some reason. I don't know. So I'm just going to set it on my dough here and get it as close to the edge as possible without going off. Okay, and then you get yourself a little paring knife and you just start cutting around all the way around the edge. You might have to wiggle it a little bit. I will say, when you make this recipe with wheat flour, it's way easier. I do ours gluten-free and egg-free and dairy-free and sugar-free, and it's a little bit of a trick, and the dough is a little different every time, but it is still wonderful. They taste amazing. The one thing you'll notice if you use wheat flour is that the cookies will puff more in the oven, so you'll want to leave a little more room between them than I have to allow for the gluten-free kind, because especially when you use baking soda instead of baking powder, it just doesn't puff very much, if at all. So it's good in the way you can get more on the sheet. Another thing that it does, you'll notice that some of the edges of my cookies are like almost feathered, and that's partly because this dough that I'm using is not chilled. If it were chilled, it would cut out way smoother and it holds its shape a little bit better. But I was having some trials with my gluten-free dough, and I did chill it. When I pulled it out of the fridge to work with it, it was like sand, and I was a little dismayed, so I left it out so it could warm up, and then I added some more liquid to it, and then it behaved itself, but it had to be warm, so it just makes the edges look a little bit rougher, but it's okay. It still does the job. So anyway, so you cut all the way around. Oh, I just think that this pattern, the one without the guy in the middle, is easier to cut inside the lines because the lines create a stencil shape, kind of guides your knife. It's a little easier to go crazy if you use the other one, the piece you cut out. But anyway, so you go around here, almost done. I think I can get four men on this sheet. So so the recipe as I have it explains at the top. It says, here is a recipe for a traditional Nicholas cookie that comes out of Rhineland, or Rhineland if you're really from there. The cookie is called speculatius. It's probably not really Latin. It's probably speculaceous or something if I slaughter it, which means image. In Europe, the image is the mirror image of a Nicholas, which had been pressed into a wooden mold and then turned out on a sheet to bake in the oven. So anyway, then they have this little picture in there, but I'll show you that after I do the cookies. So yeah, so it's traditional to make cookies in the shape of St. Nicholas, of a little bishop. That's why they have the little cone on the top, because that is the bishop's mitre. And then the hands and feet, you have to cut in the fingers, but I'll show you that in a minute. So yeah, it takes a while, but the men are they're the bomb. That's what makes St. Nicholas Day so great. There's so many things that make St. Nicholas Day great, but anyway, I'll turn that so it's a little more straight. So you can kind of see the guys we cut And anyways, there's I did get 4 of them on there. I might just pause this while I remove all the extra from around the edges. Oh, I guess it's worth explaining that when you chill your dough and it's nice and stiff when you pull it out to cut it, you can roll it out on a floured counter, and you can cut your cookies out on the counter and then move them to a sheet. They move pretty well, but when they're gluten-free, they fall apart a lot easier. So then I actually turn my cookie sheets upside down, and I oil the backs of them, and then I roll the cookie dough out on the sheet and cut these out, and then I just pick up all the pieces in between, which is a little tedious, but you know what? It's worth it. So anyway, so that is what I'm doing here. I don't have to make you suffer through the whole process, but anyway, this has just been something my parents did when my sisters and I were little, and except they would do it when we went to bed. So we never saw them making the cookies until we were old enough to know that, you know, what was going on. So we would go to bed, get up early in the morning, and have breakfast with my dad before he went to work. We'd all come out when everybody was awake. We'd go to the dining room, and there would be all these cookies and little presents and things laid out on the table, and candlelight, and we'd sit and do our morning prayers and have breakfast of cookies and hot chocolate and coffee and candy, and we'd put out our shoes too the night before, because that's another tradition associated with St. Nicholas Day, is that he would leave money in people's shoes in the night as presents when they were in need, or drop things down their chimney, like the 3 daughters that were going to be sold into slavery if their father couldn't pay a debt. And when he heard about it, St. Nicholas dropped 3 bags of gold down the chimney, and some say that it fell into the stockings of the girls. And so anyway, so that's where the stockings come from. And then the secrets that come in the night, you know. So when we were little, we thought St. Nicholas came and made the cookies and left them, and we left out our shoes for him to put gold coins in. But first we filled them with straw and carrots for his reindeer or his horses. And so then in the morning, the carrots would be gone and the straw, and there would be gold coins in their place. So that was pretty exciting. Like, well, you know, like the chocolate coins. Yeah, I mean, real gold coins would have been great, but that's okay. We didn't care. We were just excited that there was something. So that was very exciting. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. Let's see. If I lay it down on this, okay, I'm doing this when you can't see it because it's on the side. Okay, so right now I'm going to start out, now that I have my shapes cut out and all the pieces gone from around it, I'm going to put the beards on, and so you'll get to see that on this next one. I have a garlic press, okay, one of these babies. Sorry, I have some cookie dough in there, but you see that. Okay, so I put the cookie dough in just enough to fill the little hopper or whatever, and you squish it down. Before you smush it down quite all the way though, you want to open it up again and put in another blob of dough, and then you squish it to make the beard even longer. So see how that's coming out? Oh, it's going to want to go clunk. Okay. So then you just kind of pull it off. These beards are super fat. Not all garlic presses will give you such fat beards. But anyway, I'm just gonna keep it because the beard is like everybody's favorite part of the cookie, and it's so thick and yummy. And then when you're dipping this in your hot drink to eat it the next day, it just soaks up all that goodness, and it's wonderful. So anyway, so you don't want to skimp on the beards. Although I can take a beard that I get out of the garlic press and split it in half for 2 cookies if I want to be economical. So here's the next beard. Okay. Oh, it's dropping little pieces. So then you just kind of lay it down and set it right about where his mouth would be, and you can kind of push it down in there if you want to make it look more smooth. We got one more beard to do, and I think that is so clever. I just never would have thought of this, but using a garlic press to make the beards, it's just so fun. Alright, so here's this. Alright, the last beard I put over here. And, okay, so now we've got our beards. If you have enough room beneath the beards, you can put little buttons, roll little round balls and make the buttons like for his cassock. But I don't usually do it unless I have room for two, because it looks kind of weird to just have one. So here, we'll do one on this so you can see it. Just, here he's got two little cassock buttons. Oh, yep, you can see that. Okay, then he's got his beard, so the next thing we do are the noses. And for the noses, we're gonna take a little ball of dough and you just kind of smush it into a ball, and then you use your thumb and your two fingers, you kind of squish it, make a triangle shape. See that? And then you set it on top of the beard. And here's his nose. That's a pretty big one. Whoa, schnoz. Okay, we'll do one over there. Yeah. So there's another little nose. We'll put it over here. Another one for our last little guy. Okay, and then you take some little blobs and you roll them and make eyes. Put them on either side of the nose. And so then he's taking a shape. Here, his nose is crooked. Maybe he got in a fight. Maybe this Nicholas was after the Council of Nicaea and he got in a fight with Arius, so he's a little out of joint. Alright, so we've got, it was Nicaea, right? If it wasn't Nicaea, you better tell me in the comments below to check my church history, because I need it. Okay, there's my little eyes on that one. Okay, so now they've got eyes. So now the next part is, we go across the heads. We make these little score marks right above the eyes, one long one across. You don't cut deep enough that it's going to actually break the cookie, but it's not going to show so well on there. Oh, you can see that better. Okay, I'll tip it up. You can see that better. And then you do one line in the middle and a line on either side that all connect. This is his little miter. See that? He's got 3 lines. Now you're going to do his hands. So you give a little, like he has gloves. You do little lines and then you give him 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that one was light. And you do 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you've marked up his hands. So that's a full cookie there. I mean, unless you wanted to add buttons, but his beard's pretty long. You can do the beard shorter if you want, and then you can add more buttons. But like I said, the beards are wonderful, so you don't want to skimp on the beards. These bake in the oven at 350 for about 10 minutes. It really doesn't take long. You kind of just watch them. There isn't an exact time on the recipe. So, I'm trying to think what else there is to share. Okay, so like you can follow the recipe with just the ingredients it says, but I've also made it, with gluten-free flour, egg replacer, like powdered egg replacer. That's like primary ingredient is potato starch. And then I've used olive oil for the butter, and that worked okay. it worked better when it was pretty cold dough. I've also used different vegan butters that were stiffer and gave it more body. I've tried monk fruit, although that kind of was, I don't know, kind of, if you're not used to the flavor, it's a little weird bag taste. And I would use like a powdered, if I were to do it again, I would use a powdered kind, because I used a liquid and then it messed up the dry to wet ratio of the dough, and then it was kind of troublesome. Okay, I think I did all the, oh, I missed one of his wires. Okay. And then I've used honey. I use honey instead of the sugar. It actually doesn't make the dough too wet, so that's good. And then just don't despair. If it's dry dough, you just add some liquid, like some milk or something like that. Well, let's get this guy a couple buttons. I feel like he needs something. Yeah, and just, and the men are harder to do when the dough is crumbly. One year my sister brought over her dough, her nice wheat gluten dough, and I cut out her cookies for her while she was out running errands, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. I forgot how easy it was to do these with wheat flour. So it, yeah, it's not as time consuming that way. Okay, so there, oh darn, I missed another one of these. Okay, here's up here. Okay, so now you've seen how you do all the cutting. The cutting. There's the little marks. Okay, we did it. We got all our guys ready. Woo! They're all ready to go in the oven and bake. All right. Okay, so this is a pan I just pulled out of the oven a little while ago. It cooled, and when they're all cool, they come off pretty nicely, and you just put them carefully on a cooling rack or a tray. Ooh, don't break. Anyway, so I'm going to read you the recipe here in a minute, and I'll show it to you. And if you want the recipe, you can either buy the book, To Dance with God, or you can probably just use any gingerbread or spice cookie recipe that you really like, or ask me to email it to you, and I'll email it to you, and also one of these patterns for the cardboard cutout so that you can cut out your own and have it. One of the gifts my parents gave my sisters and I before we moved out was a cookbook with all these family recipes in it, and this recipe was one of them, and then we all got our own set of little cutout patterns for St. Nicholas Day cookies, and you know, it was fun. So that was a great gift idea. These on a rack. So anyway, yes, I will show you that. So yes, I mean, this is just one recipe that I use, but please feel free to use whatever floats your boat. And this recipe we only ever used for St. Nicholas Day. We never made cookies with it any other time of the year, so there's just this smell that's wonderful when you're working on them and you're like, oh, just bespeaks the time of year. Alright, bear with me here, I'm sorry. I'm gonna move this over so you can see this. Okay, so this is retyped from the book we got it from. So that's what I read to you about the traditional cookies. And there's the picture. And then it says mix and order 1 cup of butter, 2 cups of white sugar, 4 eggs whole, that's 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 4 cups flour, 4 teaspoons cinnamon, 2 teaspoons ground allspice, 2 teaspoons ground nutmeg, 2 teaspoons ground ginger, 2 teaspoons ground cloves. Turn out onto a floured board. Knead in about 1 cup additional flour, or as much as you need, until the dough is no longer sticky and is easy to handle. Put into a plastic bag and refrigerate until chilled and stiff. Then you are ready to roll out the dough and cut the cookies. Cut off a manageable piece and keep the rest cool until you are ready for more. Let's see. For many little cutout shapes, roll the dough thinly. Thin cookies are the tastiest. For the larger decorated St. Nicholas cookies, roll the dough to about 1/4 inch thickness. Cut out cookie around the paper pattern. Place on a greased baking sheet. Then get inspired. Use scrappy bits of dough to decorate your Nicholas. For a beard, press a little dough through a garlic press. Use little balls of dough for eyes or buttons. Bake at 350 degrees until golden brown. And then there's the little pattern. So you can see that's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and that's the pattern. Anyway, so yeah, remember, I can send that to you. If you email me, I'll put my email in the description below so you can ask me if you need that. I will turn this off before I make you sick. Okay. So thanks for tuning in for this video. I'm just rolling out some more. Thought you could actually see my face and not something that moves around so much maybe. But yeah, so I just encourage you to take St. Nicholas Day as an opportunity to make a special tradition for your family. Everybody does it a little bit differently, but it's just awesome whenever, I hear of more people who are taking the time to do something special and make memories. And our family just always loved it. My one sister and I both still are just like, oh, it's our favorite day of the year. We wouldn't miss it. And we get all the little surprises ready for our kids and stuff. So I usually stay up pretty late because you're doing all the cookies. And yeah, when your kids get older, they'll help you make the cookies, and then you get to go to bed and they make the cookies while you're asleep. And then you get up and yeah, it's pretty nice. But we loved it so much we didn't care. We'd listen to Christmas music or winter music. Oh, we had a rule in our house. We didn't listen to Christmas music, like carols, anything that actually talked about Christmas, until we were putting up the Christmas decorations on like Christmas Eve. But anything else, it was just like sleigh bells or jingle bells or, winter wonderland, all those things you could do. You could indulge yourself with. So that was fun. And, if we had friends staying over or something, we'd just have them help us, and then they got to sit in on breakfast the next day. And if my dad was home, we just took the whole day to play games and just hang out and enjoy it, and it was just really special. Or we'd have a friend over to tea or something. And another thing my parents did, they really liked the movie Miracle on 34th Street, the 1947 one, with Maureen O'Hara in it. And it's really a cute movie. It's totally clean, and it's about Santa, and that Santa is real. And so they would have us watch that every night, like the night before St. Nicholas Day every year. So only on that day would we watch that movie. We would watch that movie, and then they could maybe get a head start on the cookies, and then we could kind of sneak through the kitchen and not, fully know what was going on. And that worked until I was about 6, and then I was like, I just went to my dad one day and I said, so, St. Nicholas and, all these things we do, the tooth fairy and all that, like, that's really you guys, isn't it? And he just looked at me all kind of like, oh no, am I going to traumatize you? And I was like, it's okay. I kind of figured. And he's like, yeah, it's us. And I was like, oh, okay, I just wondered. And it never bothered me that, that I had really believed St. Nicholas came in the night. Now I know he didn't really, but it was okay because I knew he was real. And so even if he didn't actually come to our house with his horses, like, it made it so real for me. And he was a saint that I could know about and have a connection to and would be part of my life in some, way I could look forward to every year. So it didn't crush me. I mean, my oldest sister was kind of crushed when she found out that it wasn't all real. But it just depends on the kid. But I just tell parents who are worried about, what if I'm deceiving my child and setting them up for trauma? I'm like, I probably won't really do that. It's probably going to be okay. Anyway, so back to the movie. So we'd watch this movie the night before. So it was just another part of the tradition, and it got to start, the night in advance. Here's my noisy timer. And I'm going to do a couple more minutes. And then on the day of St. Nicholas Day, we'd read about St. Nicholas. If we had any, like, St. Nicholas books or things, we'd have those out, and so we'd read about his life. And then there was, like, this little half-an-hour saint movie. It used to be, like, CCC Productions or something, and now you can find them on YouTube under the Saints and Heroes collection, St. Nicholas. It's just really cute, and I think it's pretty historically accurate. And so we would watch that sometimes. when we were little, because it's a cartoon, you know. But I watched that with my kids today and got them all like, they're all ready, they're stoked, they know what's coming. And so yeah, it's just, we never did Santa Claus for Christmas. We just did St. Nicholas for St. Nicholas Day. We understood that Christmas was when we gave gifts to each other. But I think that the tie-in was better for us because we thought, you know, we were really getting into getting to know a real person. So that, I mean, Santa Claus is St. Nicholas, but he's just a little bit removed enough and commercialized enough, I guess you could say, that it's a little bit more challenging to keep that aspect. And there's so many more presents at Christmas. I mean, the St. Nicholas Day presents were like the cookies, the candy, the experience of it. Early in the morning, you know, breakfast with my dad before he went to work, and doing, you know, something we never really did except during Advent on those special days, because we repeat that again on St. Lucy's Day. Similarly we would just get up and have the Lucy's crown and hot drinks, and then my dad would go to work and read about St. Lucy, do our morning prayers. So I mean, it just was really cool to do that, and it didn't. It's like the little gifts and stuff we got on St. Nicholas Day. They were just kind of small things, and they weren't wrapped. They're just sitting on the table, you know, and so it's kind of like this magical thing you come into. And it wasn't like this big mountain of wrapped gifts and you have to go through one after the other, and kids are just in overwhelm. It's like, how are you going to keep the real meaning of Christmas and St. Nicholas and everybody all straight in that? I mean, for little kids, it's just really hard. So anyway, there's just a different way of doing things for every family. So anyway, so thank you so much for tuning into this. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I'll leave goodies in the description below, and hopefully you get to make some cookies this year or do something to honor St. Nicholas and have a brighter Advent. So God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.